Hello, this is the third video in my series on incorporating text into gel monoprints, and this time I'm using a page from an old outdated science textbook that would have just been thrown away or recycled. I love reusing an old science textbook because even though some of the information may be outdated, the emotional damage from the school assignments is timeless. And so I've added an image of my wife and I as scientists that I printed off on my inkjet printer using black ink only, and then you just place it face down directly onto the gel plate. I'm adding in the acrylic paint. I'm going to use a gradient here. I've decided to use colors that would complement or go with the colors that were already on the textbook page. And I want to just add a very thin coat, but this was too thin. You can see that it's still really spotty, and so I've added more of the blue in order to get a better thin uniform uh, amount on the gel plate. I'm now adding a stencil to help increase the visual interest on the piece, and I'm going to use deli paper to help get that extra paint up off of the gel plate. I like to even save the deli paper afterwards because it's great for collage and adding other points of interest. You can see the pattern there. So far, the paper that had the image on it, it's a brochure paper. It's been creating the void and protecting the image from the paint and from the stencil. So I'm going to carefully remove it now. And the image doesn't look great at this point, but that's because the paper that I used to guide underneath is dirty, is stained, and so is the gel plate. Now I'm going to do a little reverse painting because in the image we're wearing gloves, and it just reminded me of the purple or blue nitrile gloves that we always use in the lab in graduate school and at the university. And so I thought that this would just add a little bit more interest. You have to remember though that whatever's on the bottom or right up against the plate is actually going to be the front portion of the image when you do the reverse pull. And so a lot of this paint, if there's any black in front of it, it's going to be masked. So in many ways, reverse painting always feels like you're making art with a blindfold and a hopeful attitude. Finally, I'm going to put on this acrylic matte medium. It's clear. It's just going to put a very thin layer on it. That way, the page, the textbook page, when I go to lift it, it will be directly underneath. And since the acrylic medium is clear, it's going to be able to be, you're going to be able to see the text underneath. I'm going to put a book on this in just a second to help weigh it down, and so that way we get really good transfer of the images and the different layers of the images to the final pull. At this point, the textbook paper is very thin. It's thinner than watercolor paper, so I'm going to be very careful when I remove it, and I'm going to remove it by actually pulling the gel from the paper rather than the paper from the gel. And here you can see the final image. Up there's those nitrile gloves, looking good. My wife looks like she's understanding the scientific problem, and I'm looking like I'm wondering which beaker I put the solution into. The pull came through nicely. It looks great. If you stay to the end, you'll see what it looks like when I put it into my sketchbook. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe and have a great day.